We often speak of the housing crisis in the city. Many of us don't realize that's also being echoed in a shortage of final resting places. By one estimate, GTA cemeteries could be filled in the next 15 to 20 years. And as our colleague Stephanie Phillips reports, the cost of residing there is also going up. On a new episode of Paradigm Podcast, Philip uncovers how social inequities can follow us to the grave.
I'm standing in the middle of the Richview Memorial Cemetery, which, as you can see, is sandwiched between two major highways. On one side, you've got the 401, and on the other, the 427. And you might be wondering, how did a cemetery end up here? Well, before these highways were built, the cemetery was surrounded by farmland in a small community called Richview. The first person was buried here in 1846. Her gravestone is still standing today. As the area developed, the cemetery became surrounded by concrete and industry. And now it's closed for new burials. That's an issue that experts say residents in the GTA can get used to because our graveyards are filling up. By one estimate, cemeteries in and around Toronto will be full in 15 to 20 years. Generally, there's a sentiment that because we are such a large country, we have endless space for burials. But it's actually difficult to find appropriate places. And as space gets scarcer, the same inequalities that we face in life continue in death. Three main problems led us here, according to researchers. One, we don't force builders to plan for cemetery space the same way we do for parks, transit, and schools. Two, most provincial planning policy doesn't address cemeteries in their master visions. And three, we're not thinking about demographics, mortality rates, and cultural needs. Even though cremation takes up less space and costs less, many religious communities, including Muslims, Jews, and Orthodox Christians, need full-body burial. I called around, and a plot in a GTA cemetery can go for $16,000. That's not including the actual funeral or even a casket. A researcher I spoke to says these high costs cause leapfrogging. People who live in the city are forced to look to the suburbs for affordable burial plots, which then forces people in the suburbs to look to rural areas, and so on. It makes it harder for people to visit their loved ones, and easier for all of us to forget about death.
In her full story called The Hunt, Stephanie also dives into the world of cemetery hunters who are working to revive our past. You can get Paradigm wherever you usually listen to your podcast. There's also a link at citynews.ca/extras, and new episodes are still coming out.